Hey everybody, it's Drew at Greenbox Solar at the showroom in Logan. I appreciate you taking a second to check out this video. The topic of today, we're going to talk a little bit about residential system size and what that can look like and what different options that there are. Usually when you start talking with a solar consultant, and this is true with Greenbox and just about anybody else that I know of, we'll start you at trying to offset or generate enough power with solar to offset all of your consumption in your home. So usually referred to as 100% or full offset. And that is a good starting place because in most cases, still the majority of cases, that's what would be most financially beneficial, save the most money over the long haul, and hopefully not have to worry about adding panels or anything later. But it's certainly not the only size, and it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what your power use is, if you're wanting to have backup battery now or in the future, and things like that. So shouldn't be a cookie cutter model with whoever you're working with. Get them some information and kind of figure out what your goals are. And I'll give you a couple examples what I mean by that. So first, if somebody uses quite a bit of power, your bill is up there $150 plus. You probably have several months of the year where you're paying at a higher rate. In most parts of the country, there's at least a tiered system for summer and winter. That's kind of the most basic one. So, in the summer season, you're going to pay a little bit more for the power than the winter season. And as you use more energy throughout the day, your rate also goes up. So there'll often be 3 different tiers throughout. I think I said day, throughout the month. So it resets itself every month, and if you use X amount of power up to a point, you pay a low base rate, and then between maybe 600 and 1,000 kilowatt hours, just as an example. It varies by utility, but you might be a little higher rate, and there's usually a top tier, which can be substantially more per kilowatt hour than your base rate. So one of the things you can do with a smaller system size, maybe around 50 to 60% of your offset, it can still save you a great deal of money simply because it keeps you out of those higher rates with the utility company. So in some cases, if it's a very high user, you're spending all your time, or the vast majority of the time, paying those higher rates throughout the month, having a smaller system size can actually pay off quicker than doing full offset. So there's variables there. Also, depending on how your home is laid out and whether or not we can put the majority, if not all, of the solar panels facing south, things like that. So there's questions and variables for every system, but that's a good example of why maybe a smaller system could make more sense up front. The other one is battery backup, and so if you're someone who's less concerned about the savings month to month, year to year on your power bill, and you're more concerned about having the ability to generate your own power and store it in battery, use it whatever you want in case there's a large grid outage or a long-term outage, whatever. Then in most cases you don't need as big of a system to recharge that battery. A full 100% offset on a residential home would be a pretty big battery, a pretty big system to charge a battery for the most part. Again, there's exceptions to this because if it's as an example, if it's a home that's all electric heating, electric stove, electric major appliance, all that, you're still going to need a lot of battery storage to run all that stuff, and consequently you're going to need a lot of solar to charge that battery very efficiently. So there's always variables, but in general, you need a less than 100% offset to recharge like a normal size backup battery that would get you through a couple of days outage. So another variable, you may not need as many panels, save some money there if your goal is to just have some backup power. So that's kind of a couple of the quick examples. Again, I want to certainly make clear that every project, every home is different. Everything's laid out, people have different goals. Financing and availability to get tax incentives and all that can come into play with some of this system size as well. But I think the thing to know is simply that There isn't a one-size-fits-all, and whoever you're talking with about possibly going solar, it's helping you out. They should be asking some of those questions, and hopefully you can help them and get them some of that information so that they can match the size of the system with exactly what you want to accomplish. So appreciate you watching. Hoping that helps you out a little bit. Makes the design process for you a little bit easier. We'll talk to you next time. See you next time.